Why are you eating like this? Oh. Please have a seat. Orientation is about to begin. Make sure you have your orientation packets. You know how I love to close doors around here. Gotta get rid of that habit. Yeah, for the duration of this orientation, I will be walking around church without a tie-in jacket on. It's just how I'll be doing it. Can we have the lead microphone in the pulpit, please? Lead microphone. All right, thank you. So today is part 2 of our new members orientation. Today we are going to talk about our emergency safety standards. Emergency safety standards. Please turn to that in your new members manual while I actually go get the actual manual for the church. We have so many books up here. Every desk It's the very end of the church here. Every desk in this building is a mess right now. The desk in my office have millions of papers on it. This pulpit have millions of books on it. The desk in the classroom have millions of papers and books on it. It's a mess. It's a hot mess. So, we all know that the churching system is supposed to be the safest and happiest place to be. So Bible's Cosmos Church has put together a whole entire policy and laws that are designed to keep us safe. So let's look. We do have a crisis management team that is completely set up of church leaders. So the leaders in the church, which is supposed to be of the church wardens and the chiefs of the church. So here is who is on your church crisis management team. Or as we know here, I'm going to translate it because BIOS does use different terminology. So here at BIOS Cosmos Church, we just simply know it as the safety ministry. So here's who's on your safety ministry. So the safety ministry does have the people who actually carry out in aiding in the emergencies. So these are the badged employees who actually carry out, like the people who would actually be responsible for putting out a fire in the church, who actually carries out CPR, who actually stops the armed gunman. These are not the pencil pushers in the offices. These are your field people. So these are your officers. These aren't your wardens. These are the officers that are out on the field risking their lives for you. So these are made up of people from the congregation. So once we find out that somebody has experience in this field, they will be given a badge that has their career listed on it, and they will be deputized by BIOS Cosmos Church. And they will become a BIOS Cosmos Church police officer, or BIOS Cosmos Church firefighter, or BIOS Cosmos Church paramedic. So they will be deputized and given a BIOS Cosmos Church badge and uniform. This way, when they're on the premises, they're acting under BIOS Cosmos Church. Now, we do have an emergency management plan. So for each emergency, there is a chain of command, and no matter what, whoever receives a call in any emergency, please remember, in order to activate this system, the safety ministry, always call the Department of Justice. They are the first line of defense. The Department of Justice number is the same as the church number. If you can't get them, always call administration or the pastor's office or me, which again, they're all the same number, but different email address. Once you get in contact with any leadership department, the emergency will automatically be forwarded to the officers who are operating within the capacity of the safety ministry, which once again is not a fully stocked department of our own train. These are people that work out in the city, out in the town, and they go to this church, and we've deputized them to be able to operate within our borders. So once a call comes in to our administration, we would now forward it to them. But it depends what the call is. Because since the church is open 24 hours, it depends what shift, it depends who's on the clock, a whole bunch of varying factor depends. So therefore, we will always have an updated list of what position the person is doing and when. This way, it's an automatic who, what, when, where situation and who to radio or call immediately. Now, if you become a new staff member in any position, whether academic or spiritual, you will be taught this emergency plan. So let's talk about fire or any other plan that requires evacuation, such as, let's just say, gas leak, or let's just say, well, we'll get to spiritual emergencies at the end. So, what is the procedure for orderly evacuation of the congregation in the event of a fire, such as, or emergency, in case of loss of utility, fire, tornado, earthquake, chemical release, or anything? So if there are, let's start with fire. If there is a fire, we will have a fire drill after the second week after the beginning of every semester. There are fire drills posted on the Safety Ministries website. These will be reviewed with you pending after you've joined the church. This will be the first video you will see. So, once you have joined the church, you will know how to get out or how to escape in any emergency. Plus, there are signs that are clearly marked exit. So, see right behind you on the wall to those doors back there, exit. We need to fix this hallway here because the sign is pointed this way to the left that says exit is supposed to be to the right. If you turn to the left, you're just going to go through a double set of doors into the main office. There's no exit in there. You're supposed to go to the right, downstairs, and out the door. So that's the main problem there. So we need to have a sign that says exit, pointing in the right direction. Now, who's responsible for implementing the plan? Whoever sees the emergency. So that means everybody in the church should be fully knowledgeable of the plan, everybody who works here. Because whoever pulls that fire alarm or whoever first sees the emergency should implement the plan. Now, the first thing to do is to pick up anything that can be used as a sound device and start directing people out of the church. Tell them to go out of the church, direct them down the right hallways, because here at BIOS we use split-offs. So necessarily evacuations are done to reduce traffic flow as opposed to nearest exit. And this is actually quicker to do this way rather than nearest exit evacuation. So we would actually have half of the sanctuary go out the back door and half of the sanctuary front walk up here and go through the choir stand through this door. And it's quicker because having everybody pour for the back door takes longer. Now, during a fire, it's required that all oxygen in the building is shut off. All lights must be shut off, because if there is for any reason a spark, lights, and oxygen is a huge ignition source, as well as gas. The gas line must be shut off too. Because see, in our gas room, we're not gonna release that. Yeah, in our gas, we can shut the gas off without having to go to the gas room. Yeah. So how will all the occupants in the building be notified quickly in an emergency? That's a tough one, because you don't have intercom, but the building is not large, so therefore simply using a blowhorn will do. Now, this church is not vulnerable to earthquakes, but if there is a tornado, using the third hallway and this men's restroom right here, as well as the ladies' restroom around the corner, and this office right here will shelter you from any event if there's a tornado. We have to be away from the windows. Now let's move on to health. What procedures for handling a disruption during a worship service, such as an injury? We do have so let's just talk about injuries for a little bit. So we do have the service pullover law. So the policy is, if there is no medical staff available in the church, which again, if you are a EMT or a firefighter, you will have that placed on your badge upon becoming a member that follows you in church. So basically, if you're a firefighter out there in the world, you will be a firefighter here. It will be on your badge. We will put that on your badge, and you will be an employee here. You will be on payroll. You'll be treated like an academic employee. And you'll be regarded basically like a spiritual employee, except we still get more regards because we teach the Bible. The only thing is, we actually we have to put you on pension pay because we don't have any money to give out until 2050 when the church gets larger. So let's talk about health, severe injuries. So first thing we always want to do is notify the fire department. Remember, there's always, if we have the church set up the way it should be, there should be people with medical training in the church. Those employees will be clearly marked because they will be working here, and they will be trained to act right away. And what they will do is apply pressure to wound, give CPR if necessary, assess breathing and circulation, look for second victim, which it depends what caused the injury. Look for broken bones, tilt head back, brace or freeze damage or broken body parts. Now, if there's a mass casualty, like if a piece of, hypothetically, or God forbid, a piece of the church was to collapse, then we will use the abbreviated injury scale, or the AIS. So the AIS scale was designed by the Grouch City Baptist Church administration, redesigned. And the cards used for this scale was designed by the Bios Baptist Church administration. I didn't cut out of use until Bios Cosmos Church is putting them back. So We will give you a green card if you have minor injuries. So you have minor injuries, we're just going to put you, well, we have grouping areas. We're just going to put you in a communal area, such as a sanctuary or a large empty classroom, a large classroom. If we have moderate injuries, then you will be moved to a more smaller area, like, but not as like a classroom, a smaller classroom or an office, somebody's office. If you have serious injuries, then you will be placed in the hallway. Then if you have severe injuries, then that's when you will be placed closer to in entranceways inside. If you have critical injuries, we're going to treat you outside, closer to the doors. That's when you will be placed. So we place those victims outside. And I don't mean outside like out in the heat or out in the cold. We mean right by the front doors, or because the deeper you go into the church, the less injured the people will be. And then if you have maximal injuries, now those are the people where we would put them in areas of the church where they're the first, they're gonna be basically, they're the most critical. Those are the people where we cannot treat at this time, because if we spend 2 hours treating this people, 20 more people will die. And as much as I hate to say it, is it better to treat this one person for 2 hours, knowing that they'll still die and lose 20 lives, and at the end of the day lose 21 lives, or face the fact that we're going to lose this one life, even though we can treat this one life and probably still lose this one life and lose 20 lives, and probably still lose 21 lives, and save 20 lives and walk away with 20 lives safe and one casualty. So with people who are that injured, they'll go in staff areas of the church where nobody else is going, such as, probably, for example, my office, I don't know, but areas where there's staff only. Those are the areas. But public spaces is 1 through 5, and then 6 is staff areas. There are 9 areas, such as the head, face, thorax, abdomen, spine, lower extremity, upper extremity, external, and other. So these are also classified. But these injuries, we have to classify. So where are we putting the people? So who is going to speak to the media for the large event? So let's say there is we are the target, as much as I do hate to say it, we are the target of terrorism. We are, because, then let me tell you why. We have so many mixed groups in this church of mixed everything. So therefore, that makes us a target. And the thing is, people may not even be trying to target bios. One person can be trying to target one person while they're at bios. Somebody could be trying to target the United States and then miss and hit bios, because we harbor everybody. So therefore, two people could break out in a fight and we get caught in the middle because we're neutral. But when we have so many people, and then we're neutral to all of them, and everybody starts fighting, one day a mortar shell, when it's flying to somebody else, could drop and hit us in the middle of all that neutrality. Because we may be neutral to the parties around us, but the parties are not neutral towards each other. And we have to stay neutral, not because we agree with we could disagree all day and all night with what some of the people are doing. We could disagree, we could dislike, we can say, well, what they did was evil, what was wrong, but we still have to show neutrality because we're a church. We still have to show love because we're a church. We still have to show respect. We still have to harbor everybody because we're a church. So we may not have to make them feel comfortable in our home, but we have to make them feel comfortable in our church because it's a church where we cannot make churches specifically designed for a specific group of people. Churches have to be designed to hold the whole world. And one world may be day, one part of the world may be day, one part of the world may be night, but the church has to be designed to accommodate both. One part of the world may be oil, one part of the world may be water. The church has to be designed to accommodate both. But when fights happen, we can't give up. We can't throw in the towel. But because we're having oil and water day and night, salt water and regular water being in the same barrel, that does unfortunately make us a target for terrorism. And what happens when this terrorism, or if, God forbid, this terrorism comes? First of all, let's start with the notification. So, who is to be notified? The pastor, the federal church. That's pretty much it. So you have to notify the federal church. Bios Cosmos is a federal church. So here's how church government is structured. So we at Bios have departments set up and arranged in a circle, so all powers divert back to this one area, to this one pulpit, to my one office. So that's why it's called the federal church, but it's a system of checks and balances, and it's a democratic system. But unlike a democratic system, I myself can overrule it anytime. So, if there is a situation, only I talk to the media. Now, the media, just like everybody else, nobody gets special treatment. Nobody. If anybody wants information from the church, they have to go through Bible court. Because we're not going to let anybody dig up our church. Nobody. Everybody goes through Bible court. So, if ushers, and of course there really is only one church leader, everybody else is a church operator. I'm the only church leader. Well, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit are the only church leaders. Everybody else, including me, is a church operator. So it's a two different thing. So we're church operators. So what happens if anybody else other than me, they're not allowed to comment? Only I can make comments to the media. Now, if I tell somebody to make comments to the media, then yes. Now, for events held away from church, we do not encourage for events to be held away from church. And this is primarily for safety reasons. Yeah, for safety reasons, we don't encourage for events to be held away from church. We try to keep everything on our property where we have safety and security. So, from the church building, are appropriate notification emergency numbers posted next to all phones? Well, we need to do better on that. That's going to be a policy. Are procedures in place to ensure that the proper parents and guardians pick up a child from functions held at the church? We have those procedures in place. Parents must present their IDs when they are picking up their child from the church, and they must know somebody other than the parents, not the parents, somebody other than the parents, because we know who the parents are. Somebody other than the parents, and the parents must present not the state ID, the church ID. Church ID, not the state, the church. If it's not the parents, must be someone other than the church ID. Now, if it's me, then of course, if it's me, I can recognize the person. But of course, I follow the rules anyway. So if I recognize the person, I will be asking questions and doing this, and I will ask to speak to the parents of the child to make sure. Now, who's responsible for snow and ice removal from church property and maintenance? Whoever is there. Whose response are facilities routinely monitored for potential hazards? Well, we need to do better because our bridges are rickety. We used to have the problem with rickety bridges a few years ago, and we fixed it. So, let's talk about record keeping and storage. So, what types of records and papers are considered important by the church? So, records are kept for 7 terms. So, this will equate. Yeah, this is 7 years, so not terms, years. 7 terms is actually much shorter. This is gonna be this is not 7. Yeah. What are the most important records and papers kept? So we need to. Is there an up-to-date inventory of all videotape and movable content such as office sound equipment? Who's responsible for maintaining TV and VCRs? So, in the event, this is a big one, in the event of damage to church property, was destruction photographed or videotaped? Was a record made of all decisions relating to destruction to church property? And you know, I really like this one. This is a guideline where we want to make sure, because when somebody come in here and destroy our church property, we always take a picture of it and keep a picture of it. And we keep a record of the punishment, the fine, and how much it costs to repair it, as well as the receipt for repairing it. That's if we paid for it and charge them back. Now, starting next year, all workers over the age of 18 who works at Bios Cosmos Church, who has direct, not indirect, such as over the computer online. I do mean direct and constant. Direct and constant, that means in everyday programs. So I don't mean in Sunday school and children's church where you're right there in front of me, you're right there on camera in everything. I mean in direct and constant is just, where can I put an example? The tutoring program, I would probably say the tutoring program, this is an environment where you're not supervised any at all, because you're heavily supervised during Sunday school, children's church, and those other things. Children's church, I should probably put it in. But this is going to be not for 2018, 2019, for 2020, 2021, excuse me, because that's when we're going to have those programs in place. We're not having them this year. Next year, when we have them, we're going to require people to get background check prior to being able to work in those programs. So anybody that has unsupervised contact with children, we need to have a background check. Why? Let me tell you why. This is an uncomfortable topic for me to mention because it runs a lot of people blood, but this is sexual abuse. This is prevention of it, of course, which is something that BIOS is looking at, because I noticed this has been going on in a lot of churches across our nation. So, of course, background checks are required and conducted for persons who have significant problematic responsibility for children and youth. The documentation of these checks will be filed and kept by the church. And in addition, it is required by law in the state of Georgia. So this church is located in the state of Georgia. So you probably say, well, why is this pastor asking for a background check? I didn't feel too comfortable having to ask for a background check, but then I said, I kind of want to, because I want to make sure I know who you are before I put you around all the church's most prized possession unsupervised. So there you go. Now, and then it's state law too, so that makes me feel even more better. Now, where is it? I know I was reading something. Oh, here we are. Does the church have a procedure for addressing allegations of which child abuse, this is something different now, not just, this is all forms of it, that have allegedly occurred on church property. So if an allegation of child abuse have occurred, you will be yellow slipped immediately. Immediately. As a matter of fact, we have it to where the child will be able to yellow slip you for the abuse. Yeah. That's the only thing he or she will be able to yellow slip you for, though. Because you see, the form the form CP49, is that correct? Yes, the CP49, which CP stands for the child protection sector. So the child protection sector means that we're protecting children. So the CP actually extends all the way from 49 all the way up to 50. So yes, so you have 5 child protection forms. No, you have 6 child protection forms. So, with there being 6 child protection forms, the CP49, if the child fills that out, that serves as a yellow slip. So just as well say the child will be yellow slipping you for that abuse, and almost immediately, that is an immediate referral to my office and an immediate suspension of license until I give it back to you. Because once you get a yellow slip, you are suspended from work until I give you back the license. Now, the youth department has an extension to this. If a CB 49 is received, let there also be a white slip saying that you're banned from the youth department. So basically, it serves two purposes. You go to my office and you're banned from the youth department, meaning there's a lot of things you won't be able to do. You won't be able to attend a lot of fun activities, and you'll be heavily supervised in Sabbath service, meaning that you'll probably have to sit on this front pew right here, very front pew, or more than likely you'll probably be excluded from Sabbath service, and you'll probably just be made to sit in a side room where you'll be able to see the service on a TV screen, but you won't be able to sit out here. You'll be sent to an isolation room. Because that's if we see problems in the sanctuary. You'll be allowed in the sanctuary, but you have to sit up front. You can't go in the back. You have to be up front. And then if we see problem, that's when we send you off over there to the conference room where there's TV in there. And then furthermore, anytime you watch a YouTube video, your username, you won't be able to enter in the mass chat. Your chat will be sent privately, so only I can get it and nobody else can. So you really do not want to incur this particular charge. So let's look at this. There are different variations are disclosed on church property. So if this are alleged to have occurred on church property or disclosed. Now, when we say child abuse, it's any kind of, if you hit a child, you also will be treated the same. Any kind of child abuse, any kind. Once you're over that threshold, so if you are a 16-year-old and you slap a 14-year-old, you will be excluded from the youth department. You will be excluded from teaching. You will be sent to my office. You will be punished. Well, here you're considered an adult. So you will be punished for it. Alleged to have occurred at an off-site church-sponsored event. So if I'm preaching at another church, remember, under Bayesian law, anywhere where I am preaching, that becomes temporary church property. The room I'm preaching in and teaching in becomes that. And if you're a member and you act up there, the church can still discipline you. It can still do that if you are a full-time member here. An employee, not member. We're not going to do anything we're not going to touch the congregation. We're not going to do anything to the congregation. The congregation, your offense has to be on our land. But if you are an employee and you do something, say I'm preaching at another church and one of my employees comes up, go and slap one of the members of my youth department, and now that member goes and yellow slips that employee, which we can't do it right away. We have to wait until we've red slipped that person at least 10 times. Then there you go. You can still get consequences. So, are alleged to have involved church leadership. Now, this is something that goes on a lot in bigger churches. You have church leaders, even clergy, assaulting younger children in the church. So now, if this has involved clergy of any kind, first of all, you will lose your license and you won't get it back until the next term. You will lose your license. That's it. Second offense, you're done, you're gone. Now, here is something. If you are a clergy and you abuse a child, guess what? The first time you do it, we look down heavily on child abuse, but it depends to what extent. If you abuse the child like a slap or you yell at the child until the child starts crying, you could get the license back after a year. But if you, like, say, sexual abuse or whatever, you're permanently excluded. Now, this is where the excommission comes in. Excommission is still a practice here at Bios Cosmos Church. Let's look at the Bios Cosmos Church law. So it says here under Bios Cosmos Church law, section 8, that excommission shall not be a practice lest a clergy or, now here what it says, lest a clergy or a staff member demonstrates high treason or abuse to a child or the church. So if a clergy demonstrates treason, high treason, which is different than regular treason, which it's hard to demonstrate high treason. High treason just means that you're trying to do something. Treason just means you just betray your church. You just threw your church on the bus. High treason just means basically what treason means, you just pulled the curtain on your church while it was in the shower. High treason means you're trying to destroy the whole thing. That's a difference. Now, child abuse is another form, because seeing that 95% of the time when people come to church, it's because their kids started and grew up here. See, we have a bunch of people who are now adults that's been here since their childhood, that's been here since they started high school, finished high school, now adults in the adult department, that's been here. And I'm not talking those liberated from the youth department. I'm saying grew through youth, went through the youth course. We have that. So people come here, families start here. A lot of kids find this church and then bring their family back. Our goal is to put families back together. The modern family unit is not a healthy place. It's a palace of destruction. It's a palace of destruction. So to bring destruction in the church is a form of high treason. And then to do it as an authority, I will make an example out of anybody that does this. So to bring evil in the church, because to be a Biosian leader, you are the highest authority in someone's life. So if you do something, your fall has to be big. We have to make sure that your fall is big and that you don't get back up. We have to make sure. So let's move on. We don't have any vehicles. I don't know why am I going over financial, because we don't have any of that. But let's talk about the active shooter. This is the last part. So the first part is the run, hide, fight defense. So run, escape if possible. Getting away from the shooter is top priority. Leave your belongings and get away. Help others escape, but evacuate regardless of whether others agree to follow. So when you get to safety, call the church's Department of Security or pastor's office. Describe the shooter location and weapons. If you can't escape, hide. Hide like a cat. Get out of the shooter's view and stay very quiet. Silence all electronic devices and make sure they won't vibrate. Lock blinds, doors, and turn out lights. Don't hide in groups spread out along walls or hide separately to make it more difficult for the shooter. Wait, don't hide in groups. Don't hide in groups, spread out along walls, or hide separately to make it more it should say to make it more easier for the shooter. So I don't get that part. Why did you put that? So what are we trying to do? Make it easier? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it harder for the shooter. We're trying to make it harder. We want it to be harder. Fight. Commit to your action and act as aggressively as possible. So throw everything you can get your hands on. That's the only time you're allowed to throw my pulpit. That's the only time you are allowed to throw my pulpit. Is in a situation like this. After the shooting is over, church security will be coming through with some pretty big guns. So please keep your hands clear. And they might push you over. So be prepared for that. Don't get upset with them. They're there to make sure that there isn't a hiding shooter. So that's it. That's it. After that, collect your family and get as far away from BIOS as possible. And just thank God that you survived the tragedy. So, part 2, emergency preparedness. Tomorrow we are going to go deeper. Have a good day and may God bless you.